I think it's important to say that, anyone who has experienced or been in the United States for any period of time and experienced this country's history and knows it cannot have believed that it would be easy to elect a woman president, let alone a woman of color. Let's just be clear. And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swiftie to the Swifties. She had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign in that short period of time. And I think that's still true.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Something I was immediately surprised by is that, I think one of the most famous images of 2016 that I think stuck with a lot of people, similar to like the flag raising on, I guess that was Iwo Jima, or that Afghani lady with pearl earrings, or that might be a painting, is the libtard lady.
Wait, from the Dutch Masters?
From the Dutch Masters.
Okay, sure.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the Afghan girl with the crazy eyes that was in National Geographic.
You're mixing up
girl with the pearl earring is the Dutch
pearl earring
yeah,
and the National Geographic.
Yeah,
that's a crazy AI prompt, by the way.
That would be an insane mashup.
Would do numbers on X, the everything app.
But the Bahrain-coated and babinied libtard screaming at Trump's inaugural day, I guess. I don't know if she was at the inauguration, but going like, ah! And I was surprised I didn't see much of that last night.
No, much more muted. Much more muted. But I will, much more muted. And even in, I feel like celebration, I feel like the Trump people weren't as insanely celebratory, or maybe I just didn't see it.
Yeah. I don't know if I think I went to bed before they.
I feel like the inauguration is gonna be a wild one.
We should go.
I would bet, depending on the weather, obviously, of course. But I would think there's gonna be some big crowds and a crazy ass fucking party.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about? Nothing else but Donald Trump winning the 2024 election for the United States of America. But first, we should introduce ourselves. My name is Brace Belden. I've been a Republican for 15 years. I voted Donald Trump all 3 times, and I was briefly a member of his cabinet in 2016 before being fired for vague indiscretions.
In fact, you voted for him even back in 2012. You were early.
I was a write-in.
You were early write-in.
Because I thought Obama was so rude to him.
Yeah, you were curious. You were birther curious.
I was birther curious. But then I found out how births actually happen, and I'm no longer curious. They are gross. What's your name?
Hello, everyone. I'm Liz. We are, of course, as always, joined by producer Young Chomsky, and this is
TrueAnon.
Hello.
Wait,
we were going to call it Civil War.
I know. The idea for...
The awakening. Wait, the awakening of the awakening.
No, we're going to do...
the anti-awakening. I'm so confused on where we're at with the like, wokening and the anti-wokening and the woke mind, what cycle we're on.
We are on the precipice of a great awakening, which I want to talk about later in this episode.
A new great awakening?
And it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen before. Okay. We're going to make words impossible to say, words you've never even dreamt of.
Okay.
Impossible to say now. But hello, Donald Trump is the president.
Well, he's actually the president-elect.
Oh, yeah, that is how that works. Yeah, I guess Joe Biden is the president.
Which means Sleepy Joe is still the president and Kamala Harris is still the vice president, which, as you know, TV watchers know, still the funniest outcome possible, which is Sleepy takes his final rest and Kamala gets to be the lamest of the lame duck presidents of all time.
I will say that would be a really good reaction to this. In fact, because you
a final humiliation
mentioned that earlier, earlier, I guess last week, last night in my apartment, I kept just looking at my phone, really startled, and saying, "Oh my God, Joe Biden just died."
That's a good one.
Tricked people every single time.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a classic.
So, I think we need to play some audio right here. of me being right.
I think Trump is going to win. I think Trump is going to win.
I always said Donald Trump was going to win this election. And boy, did that pay off. I am.
Did it pay off?
No, it didn't pay off, which we'll get to later in this episode. Liz, how was your election watching last night?
My election watching, it was okay. Some people were over, made a bunch of food, which was good. This is, I'm still not used to watching these things on the East Coast. And so I was like, oh, damn, I'm up late.
Yeah.
But I was flipping around between everything: CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Newsmax, which was a great one to watch. And I'm always pleasantly surprised every time I turn Newsmax on at how fucking budget it is. It's sort of like, it really looks like kind of like a kid's like lemonade stand, but for cable news, which I find kind of endearing if it weren't so like, virulently nativist.
Insane. Yeah.
But I think it was okay. I mean, it was sort of like it as everything started coming in, it became very clear very early that things were not going the way that Kamala supporters had hoped. So what was then fun to watch was the anchor's reaction and their attempt to kind of manage the situation, like watching the MSNBC people come up on the fly with explanations or doing their spin or what have you. And then CNN people kind of trying to act like, a little bit based that they saw this coming or whatever.
Yeah. I was actually really curious at what the MSNBC reaction was, but I couldn't find the remote after about 9:30 because there was too many fucking people at my house.
Well, you do that. I love how you say like they just showed up.
So it's interesting that you say that because that is a little true. There was more guests than I invited. I'll say that, but you know what? Everyone was so nice, and I'm at the confines of my living room. Got to experience people's asses in new and exciting ways as a way to figure out how everyone could be in here at the same time. Anyways, I feel like around 9:45. I might be wrong on the number a little bit, but pretty early in the night, I was like, I don't think this is going good for Kamala. Couldn't remember her name.
I forgot her name for a second.
Well, don't worry. We got 2 months and we'll never have to think about her again.
2 months?
What? No, it's November.
Oh, in 2 months.
In 2 months.
I thought you meant we'll have 2 months of never thinking about her.
No, in 2 months. But I think pretty early in the night, I was like, it doesn't look too good for her. And my dad had called me earlier in the day and was like, he's going to win. Trump's going to win. 100% he's going to win. I think based off a single article you read. And you know what? He was right.
Yeah. There was a good moment where like watching the anchors try to like manage. There's like a ton of very viral clips of MSNBC going around that are very funny. But there was one I clocked in real time that was so good. And it was right when Kamala announced, I think it was around midnight, that she was like, she's pulling a Hillary. She's not coming out. She's not speaking. Everyone from Howard who's at the Howard University watch party or whatever, like go home. And Rachel Maddow was like, in a way, and this is important to think about, sending people home is a way of helping people conserve their emotional energy. And I was like, I'm watching a master at work. Watching that woman spin all of this stuff was pretty, it was a show. And I appreciate a good show.
Well, you had the Kamala campaign sequestered at Howard University, I believe, and I don't know if it's Howard College. It's Howard University, and Trump, of course, at the Winter White House down at Mar-a-Lago, which I will say, I was like, I wonder where they have Vice President Harris at the university, because I'm imagining it's like some dumpy green room with like nothing on the walls and like a mini fridge filled with Red Bulls and
like an actual dorm room.
Yeah, no, like an actual green room, like before you go on stage or something, and like some hummus and like whatever else is on your rider there. And she's just like pacing with like 8 cell phones there. She was probably waiting for most of the night somewhere else, and she would get there, but still, one likes to imagine. Once the states really got going, I think everyone in the room was like, I think she's gonna win, or excuse me, he's gonna win. I think she's gonna lose. And then sometimes people were like, because I realized that none of us were really veteran election watchers. So it's like, well, I guess like most of these states are like 5 electoral votes. So like, I don't know, they haven't called any of the battleground ones yet. But we watched the New York Times needle move up. And apparently, I guess the New York Times like tech staff are on strike and people were saying it's a scab needle. But let me tell you, that needle went straight to the vein because boy, it looked worse and worse for her as the night went on. And I think around like 11, there was no hope left. Like she was done. Like there wasn't like a Hail Mary she could get.
Yeah, CNN turned funereal around that time, I would say.
Very somber. And like kind of one thing I do like about watching returns come in like this is they have to kind of vamp and like delay for time on CNN. And so people were like, people are voting and the votes are being counted. Like frequently, like a direct quote, like they would like repeat that. I kept wondering, like, is that like the pithy catchphrase they've just like invented for the evening, or like? But no, they really just have to fill time so there's no dead air. And I was watching to see how nervous they were getting, and it's tough to tell because Tapper's a pro, a professional piece of shit. And he was kind of like, we're going back and like, looking at the screen, and like coming back to it. And at a certain point, it was like coming down to Pennsylvania, and it did not look good in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I think that I was just looking that it's going to come down to about like a 2 points in Pennsylvania, which is actually like pretty in line with where all the polling was at, which is kind of an interesting takeaway. I think is very different from what people remember about 2016 and even 2020, is that for the most part, all of the polling basically kind of came in line, which is very funny. It's just that it ended up being, that 2 point miss going towards Trump.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people angry about polls, which like I've always taken polls with a grain of salt because I've answered a lot of polls in my life and I've never once answered one even remotely close to honestly. I try to give them the most schizophrenic data set that I can give them because I know they often cost a lot of money to produce and they're often produced by my enemies. But I remember, like, was it last week that I never heard of her before because not my business, but Ann Seltzer or whatever, Annie LaCroix, could that poll where like Kamala was gonna be up in Iowa, and the excitement around that is actually what made me be like, oh yeah, Trump is gonna win, because the excitement felt so desperate and it felt like people were like holding up like, look, this is signs there's gonna be a landslide. And like there
was a landslide, they just got the wrong party.
certainly was but and I don't blame people for looking for any old nugget that'll make them feel better, but that was tough, I think, for a lot of like that was tough to watch because I knew that it meant that it was going to be the opposite, just like a vibe.
Yeah, let's talk about the kind of, let's actually talk about that opposite. So, I mean, like we said, spoiler alert, Donald Trump is going to be president again. Just in case if you didn't want spoilers, don't listen. What would you call it? A Reagan-esque mandate? A massive, massive mandate, Obama style. I think now the rule is that we have to call him Obama.
Well, hopefully we never have to say his name again after this, because he is a loser.
But enormous double-digit gains in blue states, just a total bloodbath. I didn't see Red Wedding, which I'm surprised, but I think people forgot about. What was that show? See, I even forgot about it because I didn't watch it. I would say that the stuff that people were predicting in the midterms that didn't materialize maybe happened here, right? And a bunch of swing states shifted. I mean, if we're going to get into like nitty gritty, which we'll move on from very quickly, but swing states shifted much less than safe states. I think people were kind of like pronouncing some things about the Democrats, introspection, restructuring things. I think that might be a little premature, but maybe we can talk about that later when we talk about the winners and losers of the evening. But it does really seem like, we were just talking about this before we came on, that Trump has been, it's like he has this kind of like real mandate of heaven. Like the timing of him has been kind of impeccable, where he was able to basically take credit for a lot of economic wins under late term Obama. And then because he lost in 2020, he never got tagged with like COVID misery.
Yeah.
And he like never had to like own inflation from COVID and all of the sort of like economic fallout from all of the insane displaced shipping and like transport stuff.
Yeah.
So now he gets to kind of like take credit that people are feeling ease from inflation, and he's like about to probably most likely pump all of the fraudulent grifters again. I think this is going to be a big crypto pump point two, like 2.0. He's like even inheriting low gas prices kind of going into this term. So it's like pretty crazy the way this is all sort of lined up for him to take credit for a lot of things, I guess.
Yeah,
Run on a lot of things.
I also just think like, and again, this is I'm working from vibes here because I can't remember numbers in my little head, but I do think that people really heavily and rightfully often associate much of the more draconian COVID policies, which I think are also associated with like economic downturn, with Democrats too.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, even the vaccine, right? Like, which was a part of Trump's Operation Warp Speed,
Right.
but has its own sort of like mythos attached to it. People really associate with the Democrats, unless they want to associate with Trump, but that depends on the context. And so I think like he kind of did like exactly what you're saying. Like he is kind of like getting a kind of a golden ticket here, and his victory last night was so crushing. I'm sure the numbers will change because America, sometimes it takes a long time to count the votes.
Hey, if you're in line, stay in line.
You're in line, stay in. Like, keep it. Yeah, late voting is open. But he won the popular vote, and that is something that like has been like the last cope stand for the liberal. I mean, because like it's like Republicans barely ever win that, and like the Democrats often win it, and even when they lose. And so they can always point to that, like, well, people actually like us more.
Yeah.
It's just the electoral college is all fucked up. But like now you can't hear these like, weeps and moans by bourgeois tinkerers to figure out how to perfect our electoral system because you lost either way.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of like, I would say the middle class liberal voter who's always insistent on their righteousness because of the popular vote, the people that you're talking about, I guess Democrats, you just call it Democrats. I think there's like, should be some uncomfortable truth moments, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if there will be, but people fucking hate the Democrats and I don't blame them. Like, why? I mean, I think there's still a lot of resentment from 2016, 2017, it's all still kind of working its way through the ideological bowels, I guess, of this fucking country. And when you talk to people like in the real world, not on the internet, whatever, you talk to people and at least my takeaway is it's the fucking gaslighting. It's the disrespect. It's the arrogance. Like we were just talking about, the shit with Joe Biden is such an incredibly, like, it was such a perfect example, right? Where it's like, even going into the beginning of Joe Biden's term, people were like, but he's not well.
Yes.
And the insistence that no, he's fine, that like the shit you were seeing with your eyes was not true until it was so obvious that they couldn't deny it because it was on live television. And Donald Trump himself, I mean, remember when Trump was like, I don't know what he said and I don't think he does either? Like, how the fuck do you deny that any of this is happening? And yet they still did.
That's, I think, the most important thing there, right? Is because obviously, to some extent, they have to kind of deny it. They can never be like, listen, he shuffles around like some kind of like decrepit ghoul newly risen from a tomb. But the fact that Kamala came out there and was like, he's so, you guys don't understand. He's just really chill. Like, that's why he's like that. Because he's so relaxed.
Yeah.
The fact that she came out there and lied about our president, the hypnagogic, however you say it, Joseph Robinette Biden, I totally discredits her. And I think that so much of that is like emblematic of how the Democrats treat people anyways. It's like,
Yes.
actually, we know better. And like, actually, the experts are in charge. And like, you're crazy for thinking that. You're being conspiratorial. You're being whatever. And like, you're right. It is this fucking arrogance. Like, I think one thing that we're also learning, the one thing that is also, we've been shown is that people just don't like Democrats. Like, they don't like the Democratic Party. And like, they are correct. I mean, I think they're wrong for like the Republican Party, but like, I don't really see, I mean, I might be less maybe amenable to the Democratic Party than some who probably refer to themselves as leftists or progressives. But they were soundly rejected by the American public, which very few lessons will be learned in the large sense. I'm sure that many short-term ones will. But I think that the Sleepy Joe thing completely discredited. And the reality is too, Kamala was fucking unpopular as a what do you call it?
Yeah.
When she ran the primary.
President. Oh yeah.
As a vice president. As a vice president, my God, I think there are varieties of rat that are more popular than her as vice president. She was a do-nothing bum vice president that just walked around zanned out. And when they shoved her in the driver's seat, they took away the Xanax and she no longer had pithy little lines. But I do think that the lack of a primary hurt her chances because you can't run against the guy you're currently working with and for. And so and you kind of need to do that. Yeah.
You mean that she shouldn't have been the candidate because she would have had that issue if she were the candidate, even if there were a primary.
And she won. Yeah. Oh, yes. No, you're
which
correct.
She very well could have just because of, I don't know, obligation and also people thinking, I mean, there is a part of me that thinks that after the debate and everyone already looking at the landscape of the electorate and the uphill battle that Sleepy was facing, regardless of how sleepy he may have been, that there was a kind of punt that was made and that they were like, well, let's just have Kamala do it and Godspeed. Because I don't know what candidate would have stepped in June that had serious and that kind of came out where it was like Gretchen Whitmer was like, no, thanks for the VP, or like, there was, I think, people like Newsom who have real aspirations, very clear aspirations for the White House, knew that it was like going to be an uphill battle, not even just looking at stepping in, whenever it was June or July that Sleepy stepped down. And so, or was it August? I mean, it's just fucking crazy.
I think it was July that he stepped down. Oh, wait. I don't know.
So, but then when they saw the sort of, and I want to talk about this, the kind of brat summer take hold, they were like, well, maybe there's something here. And then it was like, what we talked about in the last show, in the last episode, it was like, nope, the fundamentals were correct. It was not set up for them to take this whatsoever at all.
I do think that there's really something to that because, again, unpopular in the primary, unpopular as a vice president, popular when for some reason the world treated her like a particularly charming 22-year-old twink guy for like a month and a half or 2 months during Brat Summer, and then back again to being rather unpopular once she had to be herself. And I think it's notable. They really coasted off of like her bullshit Xanax, like the coconut tree. And by the way, if you think that you can get away with, I was coconut pilled, I'm sorry. I think you no longer should be able to take pills anymore.
There were grown ass adults talking about like coconut memes and
There
that
were-
being a deciding like you guys need to do some introspection.
There were self-described socialists talking about fucking I'm putting the coconut tree. I'm on the coconut tree. I'm sorry. Notes have been taken and you will be in the mine. And it's going to be one of those radiation filled mines that it's not too good to be in. But yeah, it's the desperation there. And I think that I understand. Listen, I'm Mr. Love. Brother Love, some have called me.
No, don't. That's not.
Well, it's not. He can't use it anymore. But
I don't think you should reclaim
some
that.
have called me Brother Love.
No
and
one has. Okay.
Okay, well, sometimes people call me the Love Brother. And I
better.
noticed, yeah, I'm the Love. Okay, that'll work. I'm the Love Brother. I've noticed that I think people felt like, oh, the government's responsive. Like, people got so pissed off and they kicked the deep state of Nancy Pelosi's old wretched ass, kicked fucking Sleepy Joe out of bed and put in one of the most beloved politicians in America, Kamala Harris. And like, listen, the government listened to us. And that means like, we're going to be right. And it felt like there was like a shade of like, excitement that was like akin to like the Bernie, doing well in a primary.
It was like, look, we can post our way into this and win.
Yes.
And I think that is like a microcosm of some other stuff that is a bitter pill, I think, for some people to swallow that maybe listen to the show, maybe don't. Most likely it's mostly people that don't listen to the show. I have no idea. But it's like, the country is not what you think it is. The world is not what you think it is. Like, nothing is how you think it is. And maybe it's time for everyone to kind of ask themselves how it came to be that they were so off. Right.
But the Democrats have to do this every election, right? They have to do like, do you remember in 2016, all of those like, well, I think the New York Times was like, we're announcing, I might've been during the election. I can't remember. They like announced like, we're going to send reporters to like the heartland to talk to people.
Yeah.
And like to try to understand, they were all these like amateur sociologists, like going to MAGA country to like talk to people about, I don't know what, I didn't read any articles. But I think that like this lesson is just, it's not going to be learned because what was that formulation? I can't remember who came up with it. That formulation, like for every 2 blue collar workers we pick up, or like
Chuck Schumer, wasn't it?
Was it like we pick up? I can't remember the numbers,
right?
But like we're gonna pick up a white woman in suburbia, and I think that's just like that kind of brought them to victory in 2020. It did bring them to victory in 2020, but unfortunately they lost a lot more people. The ratio was not great.
But that's why I don't think that I think they're going to double down and they're going to say, well, it's going to be a different environment next time. It most likely will. And you're not going to be an incumbent, which changes the fucking rules. And they like voters over $100,000 a year broke for Kamala.
Oh yeah.
Now I feel like because Trump won, we have to call her Kamala.
I know it's.
Or is it Kamala?
He said day one.
Kamala.
I couldn't remember where the B was.
I like Kamala better, but it does sound insensitive.
But yeah, no, voters over 100,000. I mean, a lot of this analysis is going to come out, much later. There's more digging to do, but they broke for Harris like 54-45.
Yeah.
Quite significantly.
Yeah.
It's just that Trump was able to maintain a like near split down the middle with voters 50 to 100K and then under 100 then under 50K.
Yeah.
So I mean like I mean I'm not even like, I think what's so shocking too is that there's been a lot of people already racing online to say, well, it's not the economy. It's not issues with the economy because, and this is maybe with their own bugbear, like trying to defend Bidenomics or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they point to this thing and they say, well, all of these numbers are adding up. You know what I mean? Like, inflation is down, blah, 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 blah. Like you look at the economy and this just, I've talked about this so many times before, like this object with discrete borders that you can literally prod and poke and everyone objectively agrees on, and it's not actually a political object full of internal contradictions that is ripe for contestation. But this thing called the economy is actually good. Yes. And it's like, well, when you like the framing of it is like so absurd, right? Like, even if, most people's wages outpace the cost of living, especially in the bottom. The idea that they would be furious about the economy is a stretch. Like, that is something I saw someone say. And it's like, even if a small slice of the electorate had wages that did not keep up with inflation, which is something we know to be true, that has massive political consequences, right? And then that's not even getting into, no one is mentioning like rising and sticky interest rates, squeezing homeowners, squeezing the vast amount of Americans we know they hold so much credit card debt.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like, the American consumer cannot be quenched and has to buy. That is literally part of the story of the COVID recovery, such as it was. And yet all of that being on credit card debt with rising rates, like, what do you think? When you know that like both parties are essentially fighting over slices of the middle class that are all homeowners, whose fucking wealth and their future and their children's future is tied up in the fucking stock market, and whose assets are all fucking paid for on debt that's got interest rates attached to it.
Yeah.
Like, they're getting fucking squeezed. And this is what you see. And that's not even getting into immigration.
No, well, no. And I think that was what was I actually do want to talk about immigration for a second, because I think that's what was so ridiculous about the Democrats' like effort to kind of not outflank, but like head off, I guess, Trump on immigration by like this, sudden like sort of change of rhetoric around it. We're a long way from, photo shoots of AOC crying about kids in cages or whatever. But
oh my God.
I thought it was
about that. That
was
feels like a
amazing.
lifetime ago.
I know. It's tough. I feel like Republican guys used to post that picture a lot, but the Democrats, like, you're just not going to be able to beat Trump at immigration. Like, he is Mr. Muslim ban, we're deporting them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you're not going to sway voters. And I think that is like an insight into kind of like this Democrat view that they can get, like, and poach Republican voters. I mean, that has been like a crucial part, if rather technically small part of their plan for winning for the past couple elections, is like getting moderate Republican voters out of the crazy Trump camp. But they did worse this time than with Biden.
I think that one issue, and this, you see this not just in the immigration issue, you see it across the board, is that there's this insistence, and this goes back to like the world is not what you think it is, that I'm like really want to like hammer home, is that people will say, well, if voters care about immigration, it's just the racist ones, and actually also people don't care about it. It's fake news.
Yes. Like, that's the Democrats' whole thing is like everything is always actually fine. And like, it really reminds me of like, our goat, Matt Iglesias, like how he's like, how his entire like project is being like, no, everything's actually pretty good. And like, actually things are pretty, the experts are pretty competent and things are great. Like, it's browbeating people with that is like not good. Like, who wants to like look outside the window and be like, don't you love this? Don't you just want this and more? Or just more of this, not this and more of this. And it's just not like, it's not a compelling message. And it's the only one they had, because Kamala could not say that I really do think her getting asked on like the whatever show that was, The View or Meet the Press.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
It was
like,
The View.
Would you do anything different than Biden? And her replying, can't think of, or what would you do different than Biden? And she's like, can't think of anything.
Nope, can't think of anything. Sorry.
Nope, can't think of anything. I mean, it's just ridiculous, like it's, and
yeah,
I think,
I mean, I think the thing too with this stuff is it goes back to the gaslighting thing that we were talking about, which is that like the rhetorical move is always, rather than have a have an explanation for people of like, yes, the thing that you're observing is happening, but let me reframe it for you and explain a different context, right? Or explain what's going on. It's to deny it's happening. Right. Yeah. And like, that's what's, I think you kind of see come home to roost when you see a lot of these swings in these blue states or in these like, more urban areas that people thought would be stronger for Kamabla or whatever, where you see like demographic changes in big cities rather than saying, well, I could understand how this could potentially have political consequences. Rather than saying that, it's like, no, it's not. It's going to be fine, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's like thinking that your moral position can scale politically, and it's not. That's just not how politics works.
Yeah, and then they like, well, remember that, and then it's. I will say I thank God every day that I'm not a Democrat because it seems like you really just got to do a lot of twists and turns with that motherfucker. I will say I want to talk about how well Trump did with basically it seems like almost everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was like
Yeah.
I remember at the Madison Square Garden. I remember looking around, like, damn, there's hella BIPOCs here. Like, there's a lot of different kinds of people at this Trump rally. And
New York City, baby.
It is New York City, and he did fucking good in New York.
Hell yeah, and New Jersey.
Exactly, he did
We had
well
just
in New
talked about
Jersey.
them moving red, by the way, the other day. I don't know if that was on the show or not, but
and he did pretty good with Latinxes. And he did good with Puerto Ricans.
Latinxes.
Well, I guess we probably have to retire that now.
Yeah,
It's no well. Should I still be a liberal after this? I don't know. I think about becoming even more liberal, but anyways, it like Trump did so good with everybody, and I think like a lot of it, and we can see that like the Rogan, Theo Von, whatever, like Aiden Ross appearances are going to get a lot of attention because I think that's getting a lot of the credit for how well he did with Zoomers. I think it's a little more than that because it seems like he did well with everybody. And so, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe that helped, but like, was he particularly appealing to like 30-year-old guys making, $75K a year? No idea, and anybody who says they actually have an idea, I think is probably yanking the chain a little bit. Yeah, he fucking smoked her ass. And not only did he do better, even regardless of like him taking from her. Well, I saw it on TV last night on CNN that Kamabla was doing worse than Joe Biden in like every single county in America.
yeah.
She lost she got millions less votes than he did. I mean, really, if you're her right now, you're hurting. You're having a tough day.
Yeah, she's probably also pretty hungover.
Yeah, I know. What did she start? She started drinking again.
It's so crazy that she didn't speak last night.
Shades of
I'm not
Javits
surprised
Center?
because I think she's like not. It's not like she's like skillful or has any kind of backbone or good political instincts or any of
She's a
that, or
bum.
like is a politician worth anything. But I am like, damn, how do you do that after Hillary got so much shit for it? Like, you guys
know.
didn't have a plan for this?
Well, I was thinking like she would have had to come out at like 2 a.m. and like I think a lot of people had probably already left at that point.
Yeah.
And so I think
Well, she should have come out earlier.
she should have come out earlier and be like, I love everybody. And you know what? No matter who wins or loses, this
I'm
is
I'm all about
America.
love.
I'm all about love. And I'm inspired by this guy, Brace Belden. Many call him the love brother. But yeah, I mean, she probably, do you think, I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if she could fall asleep last night.
I think she had a little help. Maybe she has a helper or two. For
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I think she might be mega dose of liquid Ativan. On the other hand, I can you watch Trump's like victory speech, right?
Yeah, I did. I stayed up. That was at like 3 a.m. We were texting. It was like
I'm
2:30
so
in the
proud of you.
morning.
Yeah, but I stopped watching TV at that point.
I was in bed watching it on my iPad, but I can't believe I just admitted
That's
that.
cute.
I did. I wanted to see what he was going to say, and it was actually kind of boring. I don't know what I was expecting. And then he introduced Vance, and I got really like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like really like, oh God. And it all kind of like was sinking in like more and more as the night faded into sleep.
Yeah, I know that it wasn't Trump that thanked them, but Aiden Ross and the Nelk boys were thanked, which is
Yeah. And Elon.
and Elon, of course.
Yeah, we'll talk about them.
Yeah, which we should get to, I think, in a sec. But
One thing I do want to say, just as like counter to Kamala, I still can't say it. Kamabla.
Kamabla.
Not that anyone wants to hear this right now, but I actually do think she did okay, all things considered, because I don't think that I don't think Biden would have won, even if he
Yeah.
had a brain or whatever his problem is. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that another Democratic candidate stepping in could have done better. Like, I think that she did all right with the hand she was dealt, I guess, which is maybe not what people want to say. But that's why I'm really bearish on Democrats, like, maybe not like learning or like moving in a different direction or whatever some people might be suggesting will be an outcome of this.
I was thinking about that because last night I think there was an instinctive response that I and many other people in the room also had. Was like, I wonder if Biden would have done better. I don't think he would have won. No one really thought he would have won, but like, I wonder if Biden would have done better. But then, like, he wouldn't have done better. Like, he just wouldn't have. I think he would have done pretty badly. I think he might have. I don't know. It's obviously impossible to say because of you could have. Duh. We don't know. But I don't know if she could have won. Like, I don't know. I don't know if there was ever really a chance. Like, I don't even know if like she had promised all these things or made her positions known if she could have won. Like, there was an inexorability to Trump, especially after he got shot. I think that a lot of people, I think, went in and out of believing in, including myself. Like, I think especially right after he got shot, I think everyone was like, he's gonna win. And then Biden drops out, and then people are like, she's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think slowly it crept up. Like, the reality is like, it's his to take,
Yeah.
And she is such an unskillful politician. Well, I guess she's actually an okay politician, but she's such an unskillful candidate.
Yeah.
And I don't mean okay politician as like a compliment, by the way. But it was just, I don't think that she could have done it. I mean, maybe if like things had changed like way before, like in 2023 or something, but like in 2024, I don't think that there was a way that I don't see a path to victory there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the counter to me saying that, because I don't know, why not, is that she's literally one of the least popular politicians in America who has never won anything competitive and didn't even make it to the Iowa caucus in 2020 before she was just like given the vice president seat for what seems to be like perhaps was like a mistake. Like,
so I'll tell you this:
Sleepy,
unverified rumor that I am repeating right now. Unverified rumor, and also quick correction: she barely won by a squeaker her race for Attorney General of California. She did not against a Republican, so which was a tall order. But like that speaks to her unpopularity because usually it's people have won by a lot more. So I heard, and I'm not going to, whatever. I heard a rumor that, how Joe Biden sort of, even I was actually under the impression that he promised to get a WOC next to him in his little VP slot. I guess he just promised an OC. He would nominate, just an OC. But no, he was going to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court, which I do remember him saying that. Yeah. And I guess this is like what the DC rumor mill is. I guess he just made the promise about the VP. He was supposed to say, I'm going to get I don't know if BIPOC had been invented yet, but I'm going to get a POC as my VP. But he actually said black woman there too. And
Classic
people in the
Sleepy.
wings were like, oh no, because it was like your choices were rather limited for like national figures, including some that like couldn't fly because like Karen Bass, I think she was like was in with Castro or something, and like was it Barbara Lee? She couldn't get because she voted against the Afghanistan war, and so it was like it had to be Kamabla, and it was like
that's right.
A lot of groans around that. Although again, unverified rumor, I could be completely untrue, but it's fun to think about.
It does feel like classic Sleepy.
It does feel like classic Sleepy. Just talking. And Yeah, in retrospect, might not have been such a good idea. It also might not have been such a good idea to just like shove her immediately into very unpopular public facing jobs, which she still somehow made it to avoid the public in.
Yeah.
But like, making her go to fucking Central America and say,
Do not come.
to which of course Donald Trump had that brilliant rejoinder of,
I'm gonna come.
and it was just a bad move.
I mean, also the woman couldn't string together a fucking sentence.
She could not. No, the thing is, you're wrong, actually. She could, and I think this is a good verb to use. She could string together, in fact, incredibly long,
Yes.
ornate, complex sentences.
Like she was trimming a Christmas tree with like a popcorn
Yes,
tinsel,
all around it,
wrapping
yes.
it around. That is how she would come up with these gorgeous
But imagine there's no
sentences.
actual fucking tree there because the woman has not expressed an actual idea. I watched that town hall. It was humiliating to watch. Like she just there's nothing there. There's
Yeah.
nothing there.
Sort of
And-
shocking
I know. It's and
or
one-
impressive, even.
Yeah. It really
Which is what made it even crazier when last night I'm like watching MSNBC and you have all these like, you have like Joy Reid or whoever these people are. Who's the redhead? The one who was like in the Biden administration. What's her fucking name?
I don't know.
Whatever. The one who's like she was like press secretary. I don't even know her name. That feels like a whole lifetime ago.
I know who you're talking about,
She's
but I
so
don't remember
smug
her
and
name.
terrible.
She immediately got a job at MSNBC after leaving.
Yeah. She, they're all sitting there and they're just like, well, there's nothing she could have done. She ran a perfect campaign. It was like impeccable. I mean, everyone was endorsing her. Like Queen Latifah never endorses people. You had even the Swifties. I'm like, you people what world do you live in? What world do you live in? And this is like, again, they are a special case, but this shit trickles down to a lot of people when it's like people come up with these stories of how the world works, and then they try to impose those stories on reality, and then they are shocked when reality doesn't conform to their stories.
Yes. Yeah. Like they think that like Taylor Swift coming out and being like, did she come out and endorse? She did. Yeah. Of course, famously, we have a coalition with Dick Cheney, Bernie Sanders, and Taylor Swift in it. But like, I'm like, it's just, they live in this fantasy land. Right. And I think with MSNBC, it's a special case too, because like literally like half of those people, it's like they go in and out of the White House. You know what I mean? Like it's like how Fox.
I mean,
is, like,
that's
a
their
recruiting
job,
Yeah.
but like it is still the bullshit they peddle is, I mean, impeccable, I guess.
I queried everybody who came to my house last night over whether, and again, we're in New York, and so the answers might be different if it was like somewhere that was like whatever, Georgia or whatever. But there was about 25 people all told that came in and out of my house, which, by the way, my cardinal rule, don't ever host a party. I had to relearn it every once in a while why I have that rule. But I love everybody. But there was too many people. I asked everybody, and one person had successfully voted. There was two people that had voted for Harris. One was a provisional ballot, so that means it's just not going to be counted.
Doesn't count.
And one person that had voted actually for Harris, and I think kind of just did it because he told his girlfriend he would. And that's 25 people there. Oh, people of all different, persuasions and politics or whatever. Not too different, but a diverse group of people, many of whom did not know each other, and literally like none of them had voted for Harris except for one. And it was, I think I was surprised by that. I was really surprised by that. Not too surprised. I didn't think it was gonna be that high. I just thought there would be more than one. And I just, I think people just don't like her. And I think the Gaza thing actually like did prevent a lot of people from voting for her. And I think it gave you ammunition to where like, if you're really trying to think of an excuse not to vote for a Democrat, because they oftentimes like people on the left do successfully get browbeaten every election into voting for whatever Democrat is on the ballot. And it seems like it didn't really work this time. So we got to talk about winners and losers. Because you know what? We are completely neutral. We have no politics. None of us vote in
We're
any
still
elections
deciding.
under any circumstance. 'Cause you know what? It's because we're I don't want to say we're journalists. It's because we're objective. It's just we're objective analysts.
We're
And so
just umps.
yes. And if we
We're
voted,
umpires.
that's
Calling balls
you know
and
what?
strikes, baby.
You put the umpire up at third base, you do not. And so no involvement. We got to get the list going. Who do we got on here?
Okay, so this sucks. One of the big winners of the night, number one, I'm just going to say it with a fucking bullet to my brain, is Elon Musk.
The one and only.
Yeah, you cannot deny that he had I'm sure, fantastic night at Mar-a-Lago, rumored. The man put in a shit ton of money, and including the 44 billion, which isn't really his, but some of it's his that he technically owes, but
Some
will
of it's
probably
Diddy's.
wriggle out of it. 44 billion for Twitter. And
Well,
it all
it's actually-
fucking paid
it's-
off.
It's not called X, the everything app.
Well, but it was called Twitter when he bought it.
It was true. It
But
paid
it all
off.
paid off. I mean, he had a great night. The only silver lining that I can fucking hope for, my crying Wojak cope, is that if and when Trump throws Elon under the bus, it's going to be really fucking satisfying.
Yeah. It does seem like, Trump sometimes has a difficult time retaining long-term friendships with people with
Yeah.
whom he views as
messy.
maybe somebody who is a rival in some kind of way. And Elon Musk is the richest man in the world
Yeah.
and beloved by much of Trump's base. And so I could see jealousy erupting. It is extraordinary to me that Donald Trump is going to place Elon Musk in some kind of nebulous place of power as the Doge Commission or whatever.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see what happens with that. Exactly. Like, we'll see if that's like a real thing or not. Because again, like, Elon Musk is the king of the cappers. So like, he could be saying all this shit and then just literally not do it. Like, which would be not unusual for him. But yeah, he won. I mean, he remade a very popular social media app to be basically a tool of the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I was looking at it earlier and I just like, because I think it's because I look at like right wing accounts sometimes, and it's just now just like they're in the feed always. But like, there's been like 180,000 likes on the tweet that just says like the N word over and over and over again. It is like Gab.
It's just like, it's like 4chan for everyone.
Yeah. It's
Elon is so, he like also like big dog Zuck into like Breaking Bad, basically.
Yeah. He made it.
Like,
he made Zuck be like, I don't know what.
All these people, I fucking hate
hire a
them.
stylist.
I will say number 2 on my list of winners, and this is, I think, probably a left field out of it for everybody, but I'm going to say it. Beautiful Hillary.
Beautiful Hillary.
Beautiful Hillary is a winner of the election because she no longer is the only person to have lost to Donald Trump. And I think Kamala, still can't say it, Kamala, ate shit more than Hillary did.
Did she? I haven't checked the numbers. Actually, I did check the numbers, but I was really sleepy when I did, so I didn't retain any of them.
I think Brat Summer might come to Eclipse. I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. Did I send this to you guys? I saw a video of Robert Reich, that little poison dwarf, doing a dance, the Brat dance. Not to Brat, it's the Apple dance.
Like this needs to be outlawed.
It's crazy. Imagine doing that and losing. Listen, anything in the pursuit of victory. Anything in the pursuit of victory.
I don't know.
Well,
but you
I
need to
wouldn't
weigh
do
that
that
against actually being victorious.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anything in pursuit of victory, but like, is this helping?
But be smart.
Be smart. Is this helping? I don't think that the people demand to see Robert Reich do that. I would like to see him humiliate himself, but in a much more public and perhaps permanent fashion.
The next two winners are sort of related in a way, but I'm going to say Jeff Bezos, big winner.
Mhm.
Him making the call to not endorse Trump. He ate shit with subscribers, but probably just solidified a decent place for himself
Yes.
at the table of the administration.
Agreed.
And on the flip side, unfortunately, that also means like Beth Jesus had a great night.
Now, Beth Jesus is the Führer of E/AC. Effective? Is it effective accelerationism? He's one of these like jumped up Adderall freaks who uses the internet too much. But there is like a real worship of Elon Musk there. And unfortunately, this is like, and I think we should also kind of include like the Gary Tans of the world.
Yeah,
and like
I was
all
just going to
these
say
kind
the
of
Silicon
people.
Valley, right? The Saxes, the
Yeah.
Teals, these sort of
the
like
Winklevi.
yeah, the kind of like venture capitalist wing of Silicon
Yes.
Valley. Did fucking well.
Yeah. I mean, they really cohered around Trump this time, which I think makes sense. I think Silicon Valley has like a real reputation for being like a hotbed of like ultra liberals. And I think that many of like the sort of nebulously working project managers at like Google or whatever, I'm sure that a percentage of them are. But I think like when you're getting into like the money men here and like maybe some of the more like programmer types, to use it as a bit of a euphemism. And I mean no disrespect to anybody ever whenever I talk. I think that they sort of naturally should gravitate towards Trump. And I think Trump has actually also gravitated towards them, right? Like we'll get to this in a sec, but like he's definitely made a lot of he's sort of adopted a bit of Elon's like technological swagger as his own.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of documented split between what you would call the like venture capitalist wing and the executive wing, which would be more of like when you think of like the publicly traded companies versus like the kind of venture capitalists who are, you know, have their own projects, whereas like the executive class being more in the tank for the Democrats or for Kamala because Kamala, I'm going to do that every time. Because they want reliability, steady hand. They have publicly traded companies have different interests than like insurgent venture capitalists do about like they don't want to peel back regulations, right?
Yeah.
Like they like whereas the VCs are all about that. Anyway, that's a different topic. But so I think that's totally right.
Next we have Ojai momfluencers.
Yeah, the Ojai mom influencer contingent. I mean, they're not all in Ojai, but I do feel like that is kind of like Mar-a-Lago.
Ojai's a state of mind.
Yeah, 100%. I know this isn't going to happen, but if they could get RFK out of there so quick, I don't want to listen to his voice for 4 years. I just like there should be an agreement where we don't have to listen to him talk. Just put it in print. I'll read him. I don't want to listen to him.
I watched a short interview with him croaking an answer about fluoride to someone, and he's worse than I've ever heard him before.
Yeah, it's getting worse, I think.
We have to be very careful on this topic because unfortunately we have danced around it once before and our reviews were permanently tanked on iTunes. Perhaps because we use the word mommy in an offensive way. But yeah, and I think we should, with the Ojai momfluencers, I think we really should say RFK is a real winner in this. I don't know if he will be for long.
Yeah.
But he's a real winner in this. Also to the fluoride thing, he kind of walked that back already by saying that he's actually just going to educate like local departments about the effects of fluoride. And I have a feeling that if RFK called me on the phone to try to educate me about anything, even if it was about a mystery that I really wanted to know the answer for, I'm sorry, but dial tone on that motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, as with everything, taking stuff away is actually a lot more complicated when you're dealing with like calcified institutions.
Yeah, it's a
related. I'm gonna say an underrated winner of the evening, Olivia Newsy.
Exactly.
I think that someone's got to hire her right up.
Yeah.
My money's
Yeah.
on Puck. But I mean, the access, what no one cares anymore. It's already too, just get her back. Let's get her back. Let's see what she's got to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a subset of that. I think the women that will come out and sue RFK Jr. for sexual harassment, the lawsuits that'll appear in the next few years,
Interesting.
also hopefully will win big. Because I think the thing that's so crazy, I wonder how he and Cheryl are doing.
None of my business.
I know. I'd like to make it my business in that. I mean,
Get
I
in
just
there.
think that, yeah, I think I could rescue her reputation because you know that she is probably stressing about this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my
Or
husband's
not. I
or
don't
not.
know.
Yeah,
I
who
bet all
knows?
of everyone, I'm sure half of her social set, if not more, voted
Yeah.
for him. And it's
Yes,
basically
yeah.
socially okay now. It is socially okay.
I think, yeah, that is
He
something
won
that
the
like
popular vote.
that is something that I think that's like a lot of people have made note of, but especially Trump supporters
Yeah.
is like you can come out of the closet, honey. It's
Mhm.
okay to be
White.
white.
Even if you're not.
It's okay to be white song. But that's like to me, liking Trump is fine now in like urban areas. It was always fine in like a lot of the country, but like liking Trump in like whatever. I mean, I'm sure that in parts of like New York, you might still get like a frown or two, but like it's pretty socially acceptable. Like I know people who are like not political really at all, who very likely, or I know that they did, voted for Trump.
Yeah, 100%.
This go around, who might have done it another time, but like wouldn't have told me that.
All right, who's next? Oh, I put myself because I won $550 on Polymarket.
God damn. Yeah, good luck to getting out of your damn Meta mask. Wow, those things are.
I know, I got to figure that out. But I was able to cash out when she hit a high. So
I'm not including myself in the winners section because unfortunately, well, we can get to that in the loser section. The next is Democratic consultants. And I think these are some of the biggest big money players in America.
Yeah, I think they're definitely in some of the winners because their ass is still getting some contract. They're getting contracts. Someone's got to, they got to get hired to tell people what happened. What happened?
Hey, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I think there's going to be like a lot of like trying to like figure out like what can we do different. I mean, the reality is like Trump is kind of a special case in many ways. Like I don't like it's like there's other guys that have some of his juice, but nobody has all of his juice. And
and you saw a lot of MAGA people, not all, but you did see some MAGA people not do well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you also saw some Democrats do really well where Kamala did not do well.
Yeah.
I know. And but also I think that also speaks to the point of like the Democrats should just run Donald Trump next time. I think they would
Why
win.
didn't they think of that?
I know. Or like get a guy who just is Trump in basically every way and like have him do it. But
Yeah.
no, you need
But
him.
it is just Trump.
It is just Trump. Yeah, just have him change his name. Be like, I'm Donald Trump.
I put on the next one list the right / neocons. And I want to say like what I mean by that, which is that I was thinking about this and this goes to kind of, we were talking about how we felt like this time it's different. But the response in 2016, for those who just joined us for whatever reason, was people out in the streets protesting. You remember? Like, I remember watching it. People were crying at the bar I was at, throwing pints of beer. I think you were overseas, but
I was in war.
yeah. But saying it in war. But people like took to the streets. There was the immediate he tries to pass the infamous Muslim ban and people were out protesting at all airports across the nation. But there was also a big contingent of never Trumpers, right? And I promise I'm not going to sound like fucking Washington Post or whatever. But it was important that there was this sort of consensus that Trump was on an island, right? Even if he has institutional support and all of this in 2016, and he did, obviously that was all there. But there was a kind of break within the party. And, we even talked about this. Like, you had people like fucking JD Vance, infamously, coming out and being like, he's not a good man and I don't stand with him and
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
having to distance themselves.
Right. And so MAGA was this thing that was sort of like an attachment and a distortion, but a lot of establishment, aka Chamber of Commerce, aka Hoover Institute, aka Heritage Foundation guys were like, I don't know if we're on board with this yet. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And now that has been fully, like, these are one this time. There is no separation. The Heritage Foundation, the kind of classic neocon wing of the Republican Party is 100% fully, and I don't mean just the like John Bolton like we had last time. I mean like the entire think tank right-wing apparatus is 100 fully on board with and fully enmeshed with MAGA. It is basically like the worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. And I think
it's just different.
I think part of Trump's appeal to a lot of people is that there will be no new wars, or like that he started no new wars. And like, the implication there that like he'll somehow bring peace again. Unfortunately, I take a bit of a dimmer view of that, and I don't necessarily think that is going to be reality. I actually think that with the people he surrounds himself with, I think that there is a higher chance that something happens with Iran. I think that maybe Ukraine, Russia gets wrapped up at some point, maybe not, or at least like American aid is withdrawn. But like the people around him, and Bannon is like, his entire project is like anti-China, right? I mean, his entire project is trying to get money from a disgraced rapist who had to flee from China to America and then became a rapper and also continued allegedly groping and things of that nature until Bannon was arrested on his yacht. That would be Miles Guo. But with Miles Guo, he became like a big anti-China stalwart. I mean, he was before, but like, now he got some money behind him. I don't know if Bannon's going to have any influence this time around. I think Bannon might be seen as like somebody who has maybe too many of his own ideas. But there is consensus, even among the MAGA wing, that like China is the enemy. And I think about that a lot because it's like, well, if you're an American, like what exactly is our problem with China? Like, oh, they took our jobs? No, your business owners and your capitalists sent a lot of work over there, but like they didn't come over here and uproot the factory. The factory owners, because of like trade agreements that they pushed for, were able to move their factories overseas. And a lot of those are not even in China anymore. Or is it because like they're infringing on their territory? Well, I don't exactly think they are. Or it's like a vague like, oh, they're not democratic kind of thing. That doesn't really seem to fly with me because I don't think most people give a shit about that. And of course, it's just a different kind of democracy. But I think about it a lot, and I'm like, damn, that's I'm like, why don't we have fraternal cooperation with China? It's a big world. We're a superpower. They could be. Let's let them be a superpower too. They seem very reasonable. Seem nice. I like Chinese people. But unfortunately, no one sees it that way. And so I do think like the pivot to China is going to happen regardless of what party is in power.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like the Democrats are completely aligned on that. You look at what Biden completed that Trump started, like it's been very much an intensification of more kind of like, boisterous and like insane rhetoric towards China, or kind of like, posture towards China. I think that like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's funny. I wonder what, I think most Americans, my guess is that they buy the kind of both Democrat and Republican line, which is we are in an existential like race, like science technology race to secure the free world with China.
Yes.
And that is enough. Like I genuinely think people just are on board with that.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the EAC story as well, of course.
Well, that's the thing too, because like it's funny, Elon can't really do it because he has a lot of business in China. But yeah, the EAC people are like very concerned that like China will develop an AI better, or they steal our technology, or blah 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 blah. It strikes me to like the average American worker, like the Chinese worker is your friend. I don't know why you would. I don't know what your fucking problem is. Like your boss is the one. Well, not even your boss. Those factors haven't existed for fucking decades. But like the bosses as a class, they sent all the fucking factories overseas or down south or wherever else. It's not the workers in those nations that did that to you. It's the guys who own these companies, who, by the way, are friends with all these guys, and but whatever. Everyone knows this shit. Anyways, I think we should get on to one of the real winners of last night, which was Joseph Robinette Biden.
Yeah, Joseph Robinette Biden is default winner because he didn't technically lose the election.
He's never lost an election to Donald Trump.
And you can take that to the bank.
Take it to the bank,
sounds like
baby.
something he would say.
You know what? Take it to the MetaMask, exchange it for damn doggy coin, because
Yes.
he's just never lost to. I don't know. There's no other way to put that.
There's no other way to put it. Them's the rules. Them's the facts. And I'm sure that somewhere, I guarantee it, that he believes he would have won.
Absolutely.
And
arrogant.
Let Sleepy Joe slide. Let him believe that.
I wonder if he'll die before Carter does.
Oh my God. I forgot. It's so, when they rolled him out and they were like, look, he voted. I was like, put that away.
I didn't see the voting picture, but
Did
I
you
saw
not?
I saw the one of him in the yard. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not looked at the picture of dead ass Jimmy
Don't.
Carter, it is not a good thing to see.
Don't.
It's not good.
It's tough.
Put that man, send him up to fucking Canada and do the maid to him, because I'm sorry. It's not, there's no way he's just not in indescribable pain and delirium. Do the maid to him. It's just, he is not, we need to let him go. Let him go into the light, go down. He needs to go to heaven. Why would you, I don't understand why I'd rather be on earth being so old than being in heaven, where you can be any age at any time. And in fact, every age at once.
You can build those houses.
You can build those houses. I know. Well, there's no homeless people there. Next, we have the Nelk Boys. And I think I'm using the Nelk Boys here for shorthand for basically that entire sort of sphere. But there's going to be a lot of hay made, and there has been a lot of hay made about the influence of like Rogan and, well, these guys are a little bit younger generation than Rogan, but like Rogan and like the attendant, like sort of male media. And it's how it gave some success with young male voters to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether that's true or not, I'm sure it is to an extent. It's crazy. I noticed something like the Nelk Boys and like Jake Paul and all these guys that like endorse Trump. Like they all used to like do videos. Like I think the Nelk Boys thing was they went to like college parties and like it was like a kind of like YouTube allowable Girls Gone Wild situation. And now they just do these podcasts, and they are some of the weirdest. I mean, no disrespect. This is coming from a place of straight love. They're some of the weirdest, ugliest, like lumpiest characters I've ever seen in my entire life. And like they are somehow like these, like Rogan at least is like beefy, even though he's diminutive. And Theo Von just kind of looks like a drawing of like I don't know if Theo Von necessarily counts as one of these guys, but he kind of does. He looks like a drawing of like the hillbilly, like fan art of the hillbilly from The Simpsons. But it's I think these guys, I got to tell you, they're getting a lot of time in the sunshine right now. And I would not be surprised if they were able to do some really, really fucked interviews with Trump when he is in office. Aiden Ross, of anybody, I don't know. You know who Aiden Ross is, Liz?
Of course. You've asked me this like 5 times on the show.
So I just don't think it's right that you do. But we were talking about this like last week, but like he's functionally illiterate. Like he can't read. Which I think is more common than a lot of people think.
Well, that's what they say about Trump.
I've heard that confirmed from people that have seen it live. He literally can't. Trump can't read.
And not because he's sleepy. Like it's like a structural issue.
Read. Yeah. And I heard that. And then I've read it like from various other sources. Like I think really Trump can't actually
I think
read.
we should ask him. That's okay. If I could ask Trump a question, I'd be like, read this.
Can you read? Yeah. Yeah.
Can you read? Can you read? Can you read this? Can you read this? Hey, can you read this?
Can you read this? Next, we have the crypto industry. They scored big last night.
Yeah, and not just on their big bets. Oh my God. Shit is look, if you guys, I don't know what to say. Let's all just get into fucking crypto.
Yeah, it's just time.
Fuck
Fuck
it.
it. Now we're giving, this is financial advice. Just buy. And I don't care what, but buy any of it. I'm going to check what is Bitcoin price right now? Bitcoin was soaring yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's like 70. It is.
What is it at? 78?
I don't know. I can't tell.
76?
Actually. It is now.
72?
I actually don't
Oh
know.
my
Oh, it's
God.
75,000.
There you go.
75 damn thousand.
I would not be surprised if it hits, if they try to get it to like 100 before the inauguration. We'll
This
see.
is financial advice. Buy.
No,
Even though
this
it's
is not
probably the
gonna
high.
be.
This is Liz is telling you right now. Buy.
I want to, yeah, I'm interested to see whatever. We'll see what happens. But man, first of all, let's see if there's an SEC after this is all done. Maybe they'll get rid of that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of, all financial crimes are now legal. That will
Yes.
be the mandate from the Trump administration. In a way, it is a kind of like a purge, but for like crypto crimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, and the crypto industry paid a lot of money to influence a lot of. I
Hell
don't
yeah.
think that whatever big pack they had, I don't think got into the presidential race. It was obvious though that like Trump was the
No,
guy.
they got Sherrod Brown out,
They got Sherrod Brown out exactly.
which is crazy. He put up a good fight.
and Trump coin is now
It's crazy.
tanked, right?
I haven't checked. Who knows?
DJT, but
Who knows? I'm sure some people cashed out.
And at last but not least, for the winners, we have Benjamin Netanyahu and the great state of Israel. Now, Netanyahu, this guy is incredible. But remember when he was invited to Congress to speak, which is still insane to me?
Mhm.
Invited to Congress to speak, standing ovations. Oh, we love this guy. We want to suck his dick so bad. I love the way he kills people. He's so cool. He's so charming. He also visited Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And I'm guessing that some promises were perhaps made during that meeting that might come to fruition. You know, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Pompeo that said it. Maybe it was Pompeo, but someone recently said it. And a little bit of a stink was made about that. Not stink, but this got some attention. Where there was like intimations that like we might do something. Is that a word? Yeah. But we might do something about Iran once Trump gets in.
Mhm.
And I do think like for all of Biden's like fake red lines, I do think they genuinely do not want to go to war with Iran right
Mhm.
now. And I think they really are like, they do seem to like also kind of warn Iran before the strikes. I mean, there's a lot of reporting on that. And like, that's not super unusual because that's happened in,
Like it's all being managed in diplomatic channels. Is kind of what I
yes,
mean.
through
Yeah.
like back channels to
Totally.
Switzerland. But Trump, I mean, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is like, I mean, he's gotten like $200 million from Gulf states, from a couple of the Gulf states in the past 4 years. Like
Mhm.
he is like a foreign agent for like this like axis of like Israel and like some of the Gulf states. That's like essentially an anti-Iran axis.
Yeah.
And I think that he might have a little bit of influence. I believe that Trump was like, oh, he's not going to have an official position. But like, that doesn't fucking matter. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and we also know how Trump runs things with his family.
Exactly. And so I think that Benjamin Netanyahu is probably fucking hyped that Trump has won.
Fucking Christ.
Now we got the losers.
Okay, loser number one, obviously, number one with a bullet, Joseph Robinette Bidenet.
Mm-hmm.
He is both a winner and loser, big time loser. I'm just going to say it. His refusal to bow out probably cost his party all three bodies of government.
Yes.
I believe he will be remembered as one of the worst presidents of all time. He failed on basically his only mandate, which was to restore liberal order after the chaos of Trump. And that's like, if he's remembered at all, it will be as a failure because now this is the Trump era. And so it is a fitting, humiliating end to a decades-long mediocre career. Good fucking riddance, to Joseph Sleepy, the sleepiest. I fucking hate you, Joseph Biden.
How pathetic is it that Biden is like now going to be remembered as a blip that was rejected upon the rule of Trump? He was a mere aberration and interruption of Trump's rightful second term, which he wouldn't have got without fucking COVID. And so like, or Trump would have got without fucking COVID. And I do believe that.
Yeah.
And so
probably even the popular vote too.
You are a fucking loser.
Big ass loser. And you know what? Add to the list of the losers, Barack Obama, which now we have to call him. Him going balls to the wall for Kamala in a way that he didn't for Sleepy is so funny. Him intervening to, put the old dog Joe down and prop up this woman who was such obvious, again, is such an obvious, everyone said at the time, but such an obviously like poor choice in just a terrible environment, and having to kind of like put his name to it, couldn't get out of it, doing all this like pathetic, like, don't be misogynist, vote for her shit. Just, what? Biggest loser. What is his legacy? You know what Obama's legacy is? Again? Trump.
What? Yes, it is. Well, not only that, didn't he do that like, what's that movie called? Like As the World Turns or some shit? Like
no,
he made,
that's
like,
a soap opera.
Okay, he made like. Oh, you're right.
No, he did it. He has his Netflix deal. It's
like,
a content deal.
It's like something. Say goodbye to the. I don't know, but he had like his fucking like post-apocalyptic movie, which I didn't see on Netflix.
Oh yeah, Stop the World, It's Going, or
exactly.
whatever.
Oh, there's too many cell phones, and then everyone died.
Or like the world is going. I can't remember.
Kiss your TV by. I looked at the Wikipedia for it, and I think it ends with them like watching a DVD of Friends or something like that.
Leave the world behind.
Leave the world behind.
I liked mine version better. What was it?
I liked As the world. Say goodbye to the world.
Stop the world, it's going.
Stop the world. I need to get off.
Yeah. Oh my God. They listened to a DVD of Friends. Okay.
I think it's something like
wow,
that. I don't
much
know.
to think about.
Here's the thing. Sometimes I think like, wow, I'm already 35. I'm halfway to fucking 70 years old. I don't have time to watch Obama's movie.
Yeah.
I don't have time to do that. Like I need to move.
And you have to, because you have to stop the world.
I have to stop the world because I need to get off. And speaking of, I hate to say it, but Charlie XCX, your ticket's getting punched, honey.
Oof. I feel as though it's so funny. I was going back through my phone looking at photos from the DNC, and there's a great photo of you in a hat, a brat green hat, posing in front of Kamala's acceptance speech at DNC. And it says, it's the green hat that says existing in the context.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Oh, boy.
And you remember everything was literally brat coded, which is tough for me to say.
It wasn't just that. It was sitting there watching this like influencers talking about brat and demure and like all of these things that don't make any sense, and like it all ended up then being actually the texture of the election. Like it wasn't like there wasn't like they were like, okay, glad that we let these people get it out of their system and now we can corral them away and never talk about this again. It was like, yes, let's go with all these moron influencers' ideas and just like flood the airwaves with like brat, coconut brat.
So I don't remember the context for this, but I'm looking at a picture right now from when we went to that horrible Pod Save America like talent show thing. And there's like a young zoomed out woman, zoomie, in front of a black screen that just has in the lowercase brat green font, it says, "Are you gay?" No question mark. And I'm like zooming in on the judges' faces, and we have one of the Pod Save guys not looking too happy. We have a drag queen smile at the crowd. We have someone else laughing, and we have one of the other Pod Save guys like hiding his head. Mm-hmm. And I remember listening to Pod Save because we listened to Pod Save America during that. We are liberals. We're conservative. But
I
were
meant
liberals.
to listen to it for this, and then I forgot. I saw them last night on MSNBC, and they were coping so hard. I think they were wasted.
They were drunk. Yeah, I got multiple texts. I don't know why people were texting me about this, but they were drunk, I guess.
Yeah. one of the what's his name? I can't remember which one is which. And there's like 3 of them. I thought there was only 2, or
I think
maybe there's
3.
4.
One's called like Tommy Vietor.
Yeah, I don't know which one is which, but the one of them was really obviously drunk and had a mug where he was sipping from, and his face
Sloshing
was
it.
red and bloated. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that little talent show we watched, I was like, are you sure this is what you want to do for outreach? It's just this doesn't really seem to have to do with politics. This is just people's weird social media stuff that is vaguely, it's woke, I guess, but it's not
Yeah.
what's it about? It's not about rent, you know?
Yeah, I will say that Charlie XCX unfortunately tied her album to Kamabla.
It was her own, but hoisted on her own petard.
So much petard. So much of her own petard.
A lot of petards.
A lot of her own petard was hoisted, and she needs to work that out with herself. But yeah, I think that unfortunately that album is now forever tied to this election and on the losing side.
I think that Charlie XCX should switch course and sue Kamabla for ripping her off or whatever.
Trademark infringement.
I think trademark infringement. I do think that her tweeting Kamala is brat is tough. That's gonna be one of those things that people retweet
that's
every
gonna
couple
go
months.
in the history books.
Every time Trump does something insane, someone's gonna retweet Kamala as brat.
Yeah.
Because the reality is Kamala's not a brat. Kamala
I think she is brat.
No, she is a
just
fucking
that brat is
pig.
different.
She is a cop. People were right the first time. She is a cop. And just like a cop, she's a fucking idiot. What else do we have? Ryan Lizza. No. Well, I think about that sometimes. So Ryan Lizza, of course, was he's a journalist, if you can call him that. He was with Olivia Nuzzi. He had left his wife and children for her, I believe, and then she cheated on him with RFK. Now, Olivia Nuzzi has some degree of sympathy. People are I can see where people are coming from, oh, she's just a girl interrupted or whatever. I don't know what that movie's about, but
yeah, I don't know about that one, but I put her on the winners because RFK won. His side won, so you automatically get to go to winners.
But if I was a guy like Ryan Lizza, I would be hoping that this guy who's running for president who fucked your wife, something would happen to him. Maybe his wife, something happens, but now he is going to be taking the fluoride out of your fucking water, Ryan. And that's tough. That's tough. It's tough. And my heart goes out to you. And I'll get
my
with
heart
you.
Doesn't go out to him. I've heard some not so great things.
I think he did get, there was a Me Too there. I think there was a Me Too there.
We also have, obviously, we have to add to the loser list. This is such an obvious Zelensky.
He's been on I mean no disrespect to this. He has been on a lot of TrueAnon loser lists. The guy has not had a good. If there's any
not a
leader
good run,
I would not like to be. It would be Zelensky's got to be the number one guy in the world that I don't want to be.
Yeah, I think that we're about to see some pretty pathetic groveling, which might work out for him.
Liz, unfortunately, we already have. He put out a very long blue check style tweet about congratulating Trump on his victory. And I wonder if we're just going to give them our remaining weaponry stocks before Trump gets into office.
I know. I was wondering. I was like, damn, what is Sleepy what does Sleepy have up his nightgown sleeve for the lame duck session? Are they going to try to ram through a bunch of shit, or are they just going to rip out the copper on their way out and try to just get the fuck
something
out?
I've been thinking about too, though, is there has been, grim tidings importance about Ukraine coming from our mass media for a little while now.
Yeah,
that lead to building towards some kind of I don't know what, armistice, peace talk, something. And I think it just really might be tied with Trump. Trump might just get into office literally at the perfect time to be this is done.
Yeah.
To where that would have maybe even happened anyways. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not making predictions.
Well, these things tend to be on their own trajectory.
Yes. But Zelensky can't. It's going to be tough for him to do it because I feel like a Ukrainian ultranationalist will kill him if he does.
Brace, you're the next loser.
I am the next loser. I bet $500 on Kamala Harris, and I lost that money.
Why didn't you get out when?
Because the price kept going down. And I understand that.
Cut your losses.
No, I couldn't cut my loss. I mean, I could cut my losses, I guess, but just not well. But no, in fact, and I hate to say this, I bought more. So when it was 8 cents last night, because I'd actually,
I'm not surprised because every time we've talked about this, you've been like, whenever you start losing, you have to buy more. Like you have said that, and then you just said if you just keep gambling, you'll win.
Yeah, that's true. I told that the when I went to Barstool earlier today, there was like this crazy sports gambler came on, Stu, and like some very interesting character, and he was like talking a mile a minute about sports gambling. And I was like, but the gambler always wins. And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, he couldn't understand that because I have the mindset of I'm a punter. And you know what a punter is? The most valuable member of a football team. But also the best person at a casino, the person who's just there to have a little fun and to make a little money. And I just kept gambling last night because I was like,
you lost cheaper. The punter's mentality.
It's getting, no, I was like, what if she wins? I'm going to make even more money. And so it's a gamble. I gambled, but I did lose. I did indeed.
Do you remember we
lose.
were talking about the market and I was like, there's no reason to hold. What you're buying are the odds. And so because she's undervalued, you buy her. And then once she increases in value, you sell her. You don't hold to win because this is a coin flip for all we know. And that's not a great bet to make.
Yeah, but you say that, but you always also tell me not to do stuff, and sometimes I want to do those things, and also I forgot.
I know.
To be completely honest, I completely forgot, and then it was too late because it had actually decreased in value by the time that I remembered that you had told me to do that.
Well,
next we have, and I'm putting Alan Lichtman in here, but we got to go with Seltzer and all these like people who had this like. This is a problem, right? I think this is why people hate pollsters. It's because, like, at the end of the day, we don't really know.
Well, Lichtman isn't even a pollster. He's just we've got the 5 keys to.
I've got the keys to victory.
His keys to victory or whatever. But for Seltzer, I'm like less. I don't really care about her. I'm more interested in what she got, or like for her to kind of do a little retread of her methodology and see how she missed. Like, I'm curious what she was looking at, just because she has been so on the money before, and not that I thought she was this time, but I'm just saying, like, I'm curious about what it was that she got wrong this time. I'm sure other people are. But Lichtman is just, it's so funny too, because he had that whole exchange with Nate Silver. And seems to be really eating his words. So good for him.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I feel for the humble pollster a bit, because I feel like when something happens that people don't want it to happen, and there were some polls that say maybe that wouldn't have happened, people get really mad at the guys who took those polls. They get really pissed off. And like pollsters in particular have drawn the ire of liberal. It's become sort of their fake news, like fuck the fake news media or whatever, is the vile pollster. And I feel for them because I just assume that they're all, sort of squirrely gentlemen that have the same hairline as Nate Silver and probably spend a lot of time indoors.
But most of the pollsters like got it pretty right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I know, but people still get mad at them because
I know,
they're like, you should have,
But because people don't understand margin of error.
Next up, we have Cory Booker, who I told that anecdote earlier, but I can't help but think of him in times like this because we had such a nasty little time at that nasty little Democratic National Convention that sitting next to him, picking up that woman on the way home was really a ray of sunshine in an otherwise rather cloudy week of weather.
Yeah.
And
he's got a big old smile.
He's got a big old smile, and it hurts me.
He's a big-faced man.
It pains me, Liz, to imagine that smile flipped upside down into something like a frown. And seeing so much of his bottom, because he has a toothy frown too.
Yeah,
it's tough. And those big, beautiful, bright eyes of his, which are a little unnerving, shedding perhaps a tear or two. It's tough for me to think about. And then last we have immigrants. It's gonna be tough. I mean, this is kind of shorthand for like the two kind of major things that I kind of worry about with this are like, well, I guess some environment stuff too. I'm not really sure that it would be so different. I mean, I don't know, but like the immigrants and abortion stuff, I hope that Trump knows that he's pushed his luck with abortion, but then also like, it didn't really seem to matter that much in this election. and like, or certainly didn't matter as much as people thought it was going to matter. But the immigrant stuff, it is kind of fucking insane to see like mass deportation now signs like
Yeah.
everywhere at these rallies.
Yeah, I mean, we both remarked on that, like, shocking kind of to hear all of that at Madison Square Garden, like how intense it was. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. I think there's a lot of groups we can add to the loser list that are sort of like symbolically encompassed by you putting immigrants on this,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like kind of what you're saying. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have anything good to say about that.
No, I really don't. And it actually like it is, I think, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Cause with Trump, like literally you don't know. And like
Yeah.
he's been stymied before. But it seems like there is a libidinous energy, to sound like Liz
Yes.
for a second, really surrounding that with a lot of guys. And I feel like a lust for blood, or in its metaphorical or real sense, from a lot of Americans around this. And I want to put last in here actually is the American worker. Unfortunately stricken once again with false consciousness and voting to kick out one set of slave masters and install another, but the boss is still the boss. And unfortunately, it seems like more than ever, the American working class is just not interested in advocating for itself as a class. And it's tough to see.
Yeah.
It's tough to see. Hey, think about this, and I got to add in also, balls and strikes here. I have no personal opinions on this stuff. A lot of left-wing people, I think that it was a bad idea if you're one of those people who encourage people to vote Kamabla for this, for your own credibility. I'm going to be honest here. And I say this as somebody who people have assailed my credibility once or twice before, but I think the concept of social chauvinism, I think has really disappeared from a lot of people. And maybe it's been too long since World War One, but has disappeared from a lot of people's like analysis of politics. And I think that it is a common trap that not just American, but many on the left fall into. And I think that there's a reckoning is due, and there's oftentimes a reckoning about this, and then people backslide and fall into taylorism and opportunism. And you hate to see it, but you see it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of goes, you can throw that in sort of in the big soup of, I don't know, of things we're saying here about, people not, kind of like realizing maybe some ways in which they were wrong about how the world works, or seeing things go away and being surprised when it didn't pan out in this sort of constructed story that they told themselves,
Yeah.
And I think that like to kind of maybe find a little bit of not a brighter side, but like to kind of end it on a not as like negative note on that is just that kind of like coming to learn these things is, I mean, we throw this around a lot, mostly joking because it's an easy thing to throw around and it's funny, but like coming to learn these things like literally is a dialectical process. Like definitionally, that is the dialectic, right? Like you come to understand the dialectic by struggling through it, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like to say, like in the word, like how Jillian Rose put it, which is like, and you misknow, and yet you grow, right? Getting something wrong isn't the end of the story,
Yeah.
It's part of the story. So for people who are still struggling with that, like it's not about, if you got everything right, then you're not thinking dialectically. How about that?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And and I don't fault anyone for doing anything in this world. We're all just a squirrel trying to get a nut. But I encourage people to think about maybe politics in a more rigid way sometimes, because I think it is helpful. But I bet people get mad at me for being like, I didn't vote. I went on the day before election day, I went on like a normal guy podcast, not a normal guy podcast, but like not a political podcast.
Mhm.
And I didn't really want to talk about it, but I said that I wasn't going to vote for Vice President Harris. And I'm like, I wonder if people get really mad at me for that.
I don't
But
think so.
you know what? He won by so much that it does not matter. It does not matter. But yeah. And of course, unfortunately, we also have to add the Palestinians in here, which I guess we can kind of include under immigrants as like everybody who's going to have a bad time. Because I think a lot of people who maybe try to trick themselves into thinking that Trump might be better, I hope not, but I think that will not turn out to be the case. Which isn't my case for voting for Kamala Harris, but I think it's going to be true. Wow. I'm conservative now. So I've decided you can't beat them, join them. And I am a small C conservative and
a small B business owner, but big
That's
B,
true.
double B brace.
double B brace. And that, you know what? Brace, brother love, or love the love brother. Brace Bell and the love brother, signing off.
I'm Liz. And that's Brace. He already said it. We are, of course, joined by producer Young Chomsky. And this has been TrueAnon. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein.